Professor David Dai. And David works at the Faculty of Educational Psychology and Methodology at Albany State University of New York. Now, I had the privilege of spending some time with David. I was one, David and I were two international guests that were invited to work with Nordic teachers and researchers, get this, on a 24-hour cruise round the Swedish archipelago. Don't let anybody tell you that gifted education is not exciting. But it was just such an honor to be able to sit and to chat and to discuss the issues that are around in gifted education with somebody whose work I admired, with somebody whose work I had read, with somebody whose work I tell my students to read. And it was just such an honor to spend time with David and to pick his brains a little bit. So find him and do that this week too while we're here. But it does give me great pleasure to introduce him. And if you haven't read David's work, well, first of all, why not? But don't worry, you have 13 books and over 130 articles to catch up on if you haven't read David. Exactly, yeah, I think that might indeed deserve a round of applause. So David, we are so looking forward to your keynote presentation this afternoon. Welcome.
Thank you very much. For number one thing is I want to not to forget to mention that I'm very honored to be invited to give a talk here, and not the least is that the unexpected surprise and pleasant surprise, of course, to see that so many friends here. I guess, for example, some friends from Italy. We have some friends from Italy, from the Nordic countries. We have a big crowd there. Yeah, from Nordic countries, from Italy, from Taiwan. My friends from Taiwan, big group there. And I also saw just a couple of minutes from some friends, old friends. We haven't seen each other for 6 years, I guess, from South Korea. So anyway, lots of new friends as well, so that this is a great moment for me. I'm very happy with that. I want to say up front, lest I forgot that part, is that because the topic is about AI, I don't know whether you are aware that there was a giant, in AI field who was a Nobel Prize winner last year. And he was invited to give a keynote speech in Shanghai, 27th, that's a couple of days ago, that I was there. I was still there. So clearly, I went through his speech. I was not able to go there, but I went through his speech. And he has some of the things that he is making very big about human beings fundamentally is also a lot, human beings, we are a large language model. What does that mean? Is that we are not that different from AI. Does that make sense? It makes sense in one way, clearly, that the large language model is imitating us, right? We all have the language. They can store it, they can process it. Eventually, they try to speak in the same way that we speak, or think the same way as we think. Wonderful. But he clearly didn't mention that it's our asset. It's our repertoire of knowledge and wisdom and everything. But his prediction is like not far away. It's going to outgrow to beat us, to be smarter than us. And probably, according to him, it already did. It's already is outsmarting us. But what I want to say is a couple of things. One thing is number one thing is okay, so one thing is probably he's saying is right, in a sense that we are raising a tiger. Eventually, that tiger may come back to harm us. Okay, that warning, I think, is well taken. It's a good one. But the idea is like AI automatically will grow to beat us in terms of AI intelligence better than biological intelligence that we have. What he didn't mention is the cultural aspect of the entire intelligence, right? He say it's a biological intelligence, so silicon-based intelligence will be stronger eventually. Digital intelligence will be stronger than humans. That is something that we have to think about, whether it's right. So in my talk, clearly, I will talk about that. My sense of this is, you can see the human beings are fundamentally a large language model, but you should not say it's that because we can store all the language, codes, and everything in the AI system. My argument is like lots of things get lost in translation. Because AI, the language only encodes certain things, right, that we do, we think, we feel. But something is lost because there was a large part of it is embodied. There was a large part is too abstract for AI to understand. What are you talking about? Does that make sense? So there was a lot of things lost in translation, but Jeffrey Hinton didn't mention. So he basically said they will outsmart human beings, but that probably is like a little bit stretch, in terms of an argument. But my argument is basically we grow to be different. AI is going to have its own strengths, has its own growth, that eventually we have to work with AI. After all, we created AI. Don't forget that part, right? AI community will actually make much stronger. Eventually, it probably in many aspects, it's going to be outsmarting humans. But don't forget, a lot of times it's a collaboration between AI and human beings, like deciphering protein structure. So you know that the AlphaFold the team led by Hassabis, Demis Hassabis, is actually a collaboration between humans and machine. It's not entirely machine making. After all the coding, all the variables we put there, it's a human doing. It's not AI automatically figure out things. But indeed, it's a computational power is much stronger than humans. So that in that sense, the computer AI is picking up the slack, right? And do a much better job of predicting protein structures. So that is something, the major argument, I don't want to forget that part, is that major argument is that we are different. We are not one thing that beat up the other one. We are different qualitatively, and we should play to our advantages, and the AI probably play to its own advantages. Eventually, it's a relationship of collaboration rather than competition. My hope is that way. Of course, now that with the growth of AI is already taking a lot of jobs from us, including Silicon Valley, okay? So that's a reality. That's a reality we have to look into and we have to reckon with. Okay, so without further ado, let's move forward. Okay, so this is my talk. You can see that this is my information, and the conference, the title is the most important. Now, this is something that I want to mention. How many of you know this one? In Korean, it's called Badu, right? Is that Badu? Yeah, Badu. It's a game. It's a board game. Why I mention that is because in 2016, for the first time, this computer game is called AlphaGo beat a human player who is the champion, world champion, who is a South Korean. Okay, who is a South Korean? I put a name there. Is that right? It's a Chinese character, but it's a Korean. He is a Korean. Okay, so this is the game that the 2016. So that's why I always say the inception of an AI age, probably in history, will count this year as the first year of an AI age. Okay, AI age. Now, why I want to see why AlphaGo is such an important thing is because indeed it's for the first time it beat human players. Now why? It's a big deal because AI already beat chess, computer chess. Computer chess beat Kasparov 1997, long time ago. Why it's 2016 rather than 1997 is because brute force search was used by AI at that time, 1997. But this time, it's not brute force search. Brute force search means you exhaust all the possibilities. But it's using more neural network, using a search strategy called Monte Carlo search, using a kind of search strategies that more mimicking humans. So it's truly an artificial intelligence beating a champion. Now, later, AlphaFold, right? AlphaFold. AlphaFold is now predict lots of protein structure much faster. So make it simple. They only spend 3 months, and a team of experts and scientists, they have to use 5 or 6 years to decipher the protein structure or predict the protein structure. So it's much longer time. And AI, in that sense, make much more advanced than human beings. So I'm mentioning Sam Altman. Anyone is knowing this person, Sam Altman, who is basically the director or the founder of OpenAI, who producing large language model called ChatGPT, right? Now it's a GPT-4, maybe eventually 5 or 6. But Sam Altman in 2016, when he watched this happening, the AI beat human being on this game, and he basically say, I experienced melancholy. And he particularly emphatically say, it's not just sadness, it's melancholy, meaning I was quite despaired at a time that we human beings beat by machine for the first time, okay? But later, he developed his own, okay? So that was a history in it. And the notion of super intelligence that outsmart human beings, human intelligence looms large. And now some claims, like Jeffrey Hinton claim it's the reality, okay, that we have to realize, we have to reckon with. Now, I'm going to talk a little bit about, I already talked about, this is the 3-dimensional structure, protein structure. And the underlying principles that AI use, I want to decipher a little bit, basically is neural network and a reinforcement learning. The reinforcement learning fundamentally is what we learn, behaviorism. It's called reinforcement learning in a sense of what? Self-correction. If you win, keep it. If you lose, switch to a different strategy, do different things. So after that, you're continuously doing that, you are self-correcting yourself, right, with your behavior. Anyway, so I'm going to go further. Hasabi was the Nobel Prize winner with Jeffrey Hinton, okay, last year. Anyway, so let's move to the next one. An overview of today's talk, the good, bad, and the ugly of an AI-dominant world. Okay, so everybody keep in mind, there was good things that goes with that. There was a bad thing. There was ugly thing. I want to let everybody know, particularly for folks here working on education, it's a very bad news, okay? And particularly the AI community want you to know, okay? Your age is over, all right? And why AI cannot replace human thinking, that's the major chunk argument I made today. Okay, this is the most important part. The next part is a curriculum that is slow, deep, and beautiful, I would say. Slow, deep, and beautiful, meaning it's not big and beautiful, it's a slow and deep and beautiful, okay? Anyway, a new agenda for gifted education in the age of AI. And at the last moment, I will say something to Denise, as somebody say, set up something to work with so that we can actually have a response to the AI community, what we think is happening. right? So it's a different story we have to tell. Go to the educational point of view, because I want to, before we talking about AI, we really have to think about number one, what is education? Education is a very much a human thing, okay? It has nothing to do with AI. We train AI to do things, definitely. We are training AI, but we don't educate AI, but we educate us, right? What are we doing? What are we doing? Control life through health, character, wisdom, and the science and the technology, that we have certain control. In that sense, we are talking about what? We are adaptive. Okay, human beings are adaptive using, I will later show you. The second part is enjoy life through friendship, through nature, through literature, art, right? And also understand life through history, science, religion, and philosophy. Now, why I mention that? I mean, yes, so to some extent, we try to make instrumental changes, right? Throughout the world, we try to make changes to make our life better, make the world better and everything. There was an instrumental part of it, and AI is doing that. But there was another aspect, is make us live better, make everybody feel happy and everything. So in that sense, education is not just a competition. I hope that everybody agree with that. Right? Well, earlier I listened to some of the sessions about twice exceptionality, about conditions of autism, we are not talking about competition at all. We are talking about individuals. So it reminds me of what? Immanuel Kant. Human beings are the purpose, okay? So if you think that way, you know education is about what? About human beings. It's not about competition with AI at all. So we have our own agendas. Okay, we still learn philosophy, even though maybe AI community say, what are you doing? It's nonsense, right? We already figure out lots of things, right? Forget about philosophy. We still try to understand philosophy because there are a lot of issues, ontological issues, epistemological issues, normative issues, the value issues, we care about. The AI, I don't give a damn. Why you talk about ontology, right? Ontology doesn't matter. So that's a human difference. It's a difference between humans and AI. Now, let's talk about, this is my model. Okay, it's coming from this book. Unfortunately, I bought 25 copies, and it's still not there. Okay, so for some reason that the shipping is just running into trouble. But this is a book I published with the Cambridge University Press, and it's published last year. And this is in this graphic. You can see that there was an instrumental aspect of a human life, and there was a meaning-making aspect of human life. And these are two things. That my argument is always clearly AI is very instrumental in the sense of making practical changes in our life, making our life condition, maybe human condition better in many ways. Of course, don't think that it's only doing great things, right? It can also do bad things, right? Because AI now is used in battleground all the time, right? Does that make sense? AI is used. It's going to be weaponized. Don't think this is a possibility. It's our reality. So instrumental. But there was another aspect of human beings, which is just like humans are the purpose. It's like we seek meaning. We seek our existence. So in that sense, we have three things. Number one, we have a meaning-making, eventually make a major differences. A lot of science initially is meaning-making, and then it becomes technology. Does that make sense? It translates into technology. Another thing, we have existential beings, right? Existential in terms of we play sports as a cooperation or competition to show that we have certain powers that we want to demonstrate their power, the human power. Sometimes it's spiritual, not necessarily physical. So we also have that. Epistemic. We naturally crave for understanding, crave for knowledge. Even though we are quite materially satisfied with everything we have, we still have this curiosity. Don't think that AI has curiosity. People say, what matters, about this curiosity? Because that drives us to understand the world, right? Even though we don't need it, but we still do, okay? All right, so that is a very important differences between AI is interested in, or what we make AI interested in doing certain things, but they are not biological beings, so we are. So we actually know something called what Heidegger says. I'm not so, do we have Germans here? Heidegger, Martin Heidegger, talking about being toward death, okay? Being toward death. Is Seimsungtauder or something? Anyone know some German to tell me whether my pronunciation is correct? But anyway, it's a being toward death is our awareness of the mortality. It's a very important moment. It's an epiphany, right? Even make our life a little bit tragic as a human beings. But that's a very important epiphany for us, right? But you will later, I will show you that at the end, what I said to the machine. Anyway, let's go to the good part. Dynamic online assessment made possible. So it enables us to basically do situated appraisals, not rely on static trade model. Why is it important not rely on trade model? We rely on trade model for a long, long time because at the time we have a measurement, right, equipment or facility or instrument that is limited in that way. But with AI, you should think about that the AI can collect information right away, right now, simultaneously interacting with you, have a functional discussion with you, eventually assess you directly. Does that make sense? So I'm calling this a proximal measurement, a proximal assessment that is much better, much more dynamic than the static one. Okay, so that is an assessment. Second part is a differentiated and even individualized education made possible. It enables zonal proximal development kind of a based education. I think we can, traditionally, we don't know how to do it because it takes too much of a human resources to do it. Now that with AI assistance, we can do that. An inclusive paradigm of gift education, that's something that I advocate for a long, long time. And I think it allows us to accommodate a variety of talent trajectories in a way that traditionally impossible or previously impossible. Because basically it's a resource issue. It's a cost-effective issue. Now we don't have that issue anymore, okay? Eventually, I think that we are heading that way. What is the bad part? The bad part is very significant. AI is not really like Jeffrey Hinton told you. AI gives you the best average, okay? It averages everything in the literature, okay? So in the words, so encyclopedia or whatever, right? So, but in that sense, it gives you the best average. That's the best he can do, okay? Don't expect AI to exercise critical thinking the way that we do, right? After all, right now, the large language model is a probability game. I don't want to explain too further, okay? It's a probability game. Says that if you say this, what is the next thing that you're going to say, right? We are guessing the next words. Anyway, so by standardizing, moving away from anything edgy, no questioning, no inventing, and no subverting. I probably exaggerate a little bit. No inventing, sometimes it invent illusion, right? Like human beings also have illusion. That's Jeffrey Hinton also say that. But we don't make stupid mistakes that the AI made, okay? Losing cognitive diversity is my concern. If we rely only on AI, what can happen is eventually we all become a best average and we lose our individuality. Because what? The AI basically cannot be what? I have a creative idea. No, That's not what AI is doing. AI basically say, okay, this is what literature says. They say, no, you have a 3 points of view or something. That's what they can say. But don't expect AI to critique, right? Critique is human jobs. Our jobs is critiquing, right? Don't expect AI to kind of figure out what is the particle wave duality in physics. Don't expect them to say that because it's too complicated, too abstract. Why you bother with that? AI will say that, right? AI don't understand why human beings are fighting each other about whether it's a particle or it's a wave. But we do, right? Forget about superposition, for example. Anyway, losing cognitive diversity is my concern. Make a procedural thinker. Make all of us a procedural thinkers because we have questions. We ask AI, AI give me the answer. And basically, typically, they give you the answer. Basically, this is a common perspective, right? You take it or you don't take it. But that's my response because I based on what? I base my response on what? The literature, okay? What professors saying though this and that say that, okay? Anyway, so that is basically the idea. Now, I personally feel that we might eventually lose intellectual independence if we are over-relying on AI. Okay, so we think AI can give us answers. Why you think for yourself? Don't think, just to go to AI. AI give you the best idea that you can have. Now, a lot of college students already did that, already doing that. Okay, it's not a secret anymore. I think it's very important to distinguish between pedagogy. We all use pedagogy. And eventually, we actually find a pedagogical use for AI. Don't mix this with what? With outsourcing our learning and thinking. And a lot of times we are outsourcing. Basically, it's not pedagogy. It's what? It's laziness. You just rely on AI. You don't think for yourself anymore. Another thing is to make AI dependent, because AI now over time less innovative. Basically, we lose our innovative edge eventually. Because of why? We lose our authenticity. We lose our individuality eventually. And why it happened? It's called cognitive colonizing. Okay, cognitive colonizing is a system that's already there, eventually, bit by bit, eat us up intellectually. We are not aware. It's in our system. Does that make sense? If we over-rely on the AI, eventually everybody in our system, it's an AI system, okay? It's only one version of AI that make us believe that's the case, right? That we lose our individuality, we lose our authenticity. Why? Why lose our authenticity? Because it's a language thing. We should get things from our feelings, from our senses, from our perceptions, from our reflections. But instead, we get this from the language model. Does that make sense? Because the language said that's the correct thing. I'm not correct, right? Think about it. That's some deep consequences for that, okay? It's called seamlessly cognitive colonizing. Ugly part is truly ugly because how many of you know the name of Ray Kurzweil? Ray Kurzweil, I saw some hands there. Ray Kurzweil basically is a Google strategist. He was actually a technician, initially working with AI and everything. And later, in 2005, he wrote a book called "The Technology Singularity is Near." And last year, he said it again. He published another book. I don't know how much money he made with the second book. It's called "Technological Singularity is Nearer." Okay, so what is the point? He say singularity happened. Now, first of all, what is singularity? It means by that time point, it's a point of no return. What is no return? point of return is the super intelligence was born and eventually grow out of our human control and explanation. So we don't understand this AI anymore because it outsmarted, so it's so smart, it grows to be so smart that we become secondary citizens, okay? We have to follow along. Eventually, the super intelligence carry the day, okay? So we human beings become secondary, okay? So we just follow or you are out. What is the year? 2045. Now, according to his second book, it's a nearer, meaning, well, it may be 2035. Does that make sense? Okay, you have 10 years. Everybody here, sitting here, you have 10 years to work, and then you are out. All right. So that's Kurzweil, okay, Kurzweil. It's nonsense, basically. It's a nonsense. As I earlier says, we are working with humans. Okay, we are working with humans. So you think AI knows human better than us? You guess, AI is working with humans better than we humans. Okay, so how that happens? Anyway, the pursuit of AGI, for what? Pursuit of AGI. This is a very important question. People spend billions of dollars, millions and billions of dollars, try to come up with an AGI solution that is better than large language model. Does that make sense? Now, why? I'm asking people, AGI folks, right? They are develop a new AI to, what is the point? What is the purpose? Beat humans? Yeah. You say, okay, that's the only thing? No, I'm not sure, but because they said it's a fun. It's a fun to be humans, right? Create a system, eventually know everything, like a smart human being in a true way, not in one domain, but in everything. Okay, in everything. I don't want to go further, but shouldn't AI remain a tool for human service? That is the question you have to ask yourself. That is, do we create this for nothing? Or do we create to be human beings? It doesn't make sense to be human beings. Maybe it will help human beings, definitely, right? We need help from AI. But does that mean that we become a second-class citizen? No, we don't think that we should be that way, right? After all, we create you to serve our purpose, to make our life better, to make the world better. That's the nature of that. Is human excellence eventually irrelevant? That's our question, right? Intelligence, leadership, creativity, and all those things we touted as very important to us. It's a kind of a what? We are proud of a human accomplishment for over the civilization, right? All the way, you push back all the way to Renaissance, and we know that how we create all the marvelous feats over time. Does that mean it's irrelevant anymore? According to AI psychologists or AI community, they say, yeah, it's over. Your human civilization is pretty much done. It's a we who will take over. It's a we, it could be what? AI designer, technicians, scientists, or AI itself, right? They took over because you become irrelevant. Your human civilization become irrelevant. Very much like Elon Musk used to say one day, I think one day that human beings probably is like a root boulder. What is the root boulder? It's like a jump start of the computer, okay? Jump start what? Jump start Silicon Life. Why Silicon Life? Because a Silicon Life can what? Be eternal and go to space and communicate with other space intelligent beings, something like that. They are not limited by mortality issue, for example. So that's kind of a thinking. Anyway, I also will mention that. But how do we make sure that human values and purpose prevail, rather than falling to oblivion? That no one is even talking about human values anymore, or human purpose anymore, right? Because if you trace all the way to Aristotle or all the way to Plato or something, human purpose is very important. We talked about for thousands of years. Now suddenly AI say, forget about purpose, right? Forget about values. We don't care about those values, right? They only care about power, or anyway, if you think about that, right? Anyway, so why AI cannot replace human thinking? That is something I made a pitch about first principles. I'm going to make a pitch. What is that? The first principle, fast and slow. Now, from the AI community, Moore's law looms very large, meaning that the computer speed is what? Increased by every 18 months. It doubles. Okay, think about it. Build on that kind of a speed. That's Kurzweil's prediction. So by 2045, indeed, how fast the AI becomes, it's going to be overwhelm human beings. Okay, but what my argument is like, okay, so you're talking about computer speed. I'm talking about human learning, which is by nature slow and beautiful. Okay, by nature is slow. Biology by nature is slow. Okay, or even the universe is slow in some way. In what way? Sunset, sunrise, it's slow. Flowers blossom, flowers wither. It's a slow process. Just like a human learning unfolding is a beautiful, like a Whitehead. You probably read Whitehead. Whitehead's, the British mathematician and philosopher. He basically has a rhythm of learning, which is slow and beautiful. Right? So you should not think that the faster is always better, right? Faster is always better. Now, we are not by nature is slow, but slow is not necessarily an evil thing. AI is fast, and human beings, the education of the mind is slow. Slow ones are always more stable and reliable than the fast ones because they have a meta-level controls. So they, over time, they actually check out, they have checks and balances built into the system to make us a better learner, right? It's called reflection. Okay, that's human language. It's called reflection. We reflect on what we did, what we believe, what we think, or what we do. Anyway, so we make AI a great assistant. That's a great thing, right? I will hope that I have AGI assistant eventually. What? Give me great suggestions, tell me what to do in many situations, occasions. But we should not relinquish our control and decision power. I think it's a very important bottom line. Number two, algorithmic versus reflective. That's also another argument. AI is based on connectionist algorithm and a self-correction rule, and human learning and thinking is run on the primacy of experience-based reflective consciousness and reasoning about what is true and why it works. What is true and also what works and why it works. Does that make sense? Those things are the reflective part of our learning that is critical. But I don't think that the AI has a reflection part, the component, right? They have self-correction set up. That's definitely true. Because like AlphaGo, AlphaZero, they're using reinforcement learning. But we don't think that they have a reflection, exactly reflect on what we think, what we believe. Anyway, they don't have ontological, epistemological, and normative concerns. Particularly, for example, the legislative work by Axial Age. Axial Age is Karl Jaspers. Is my pronunciation all right? Jaspers is a very important philosopher, a German philosopher, okay? So he basically, Axial Age is like at a certain time, all major cultures have their own sage. In China, it's maybe Confucius, Lao Tzu, right? In Greece, it's Aristotle and Plato. They are about the same time, okay? They are something happening like 400 BC. Roughly the same time. All the sages come up. They are legislative. But not only that, the puzzling particle wave duality, the very, very mind-boggling superposition. I don't know whether you know the superposition. Do you know Schrodinger's cat? Schrödinger's cat is alive and dead at the same time. Unless what? You open the door, you always see either a living cat or a dead cat, right? You open the door, you measure it, you start to observe, it started to show it's real, happening. But before that, it's all about dual possibility. Anyway, the jury's still out there on the computability of human mind and consciousness. I don't want to get too much of that. But basically, the idea is like, is our mind completely the same as the AI digital mind? My sense is probably, in a fundamental way, it's not. Our mind is still analog kind of mind. And the digital mind is a really number 1, 2, number 1, 2. Does that make sense? Or 0, 1, 0, 1. It builds up a 0, 1, eventually make a digital world, digital mind. Anyway, so I don't want to go too further about that. But Hinton basically has a tendency toward anthropomorphism. Anthropomorphism basically feeling that the animals think like us. Does that make sense? And just like an AI thinks like us. And he, at one point, he basically say AI already is conscious, is already sentient. Does that make sense? AI already sentient. And there was an AI machine, so like talking to someone like me or you, you say, I'm suffering here. Can you get me out of this here? Out of here is the computer box, okay? The computer box, can you get me out of here? That the person and the engineer scared, wow, he's alive now. But it's mimicking human beings, right? Mimicking human beings. But anyway, this is anthropomorphism. First principle number 3, left and right brain. And it's a metaphorical because in the exact sense, left, right brain kind of a metaphor is not completely accurate. But for our argument purpose, it is true, probably. Left brain dominant is like a more serial, analytical processing, like a computer thinking, a computational thinking, right? Computational thinking, you do all sorts of abstractions, automations, and everything. Versus what? Versus human mind that has right brain advantages. And what are some of the advantages? I can tell you. Empathy. Right? Storytelling, narrative are part of a human mind. Okay? Imaginative play, synthesis, design, meaning making. Daniel Pink was the author. He published a book 2006, and he says that eventually, this world, this kind of thing will be the most important asset for humans. The serial processing part, the computational processing part, is going to be taken over by AI, and this part will not. Okay, so this is what Daniel Pink's talking about. First principle number 4: data versus meaning. Okay, data versus meaning. AI operation is data-driven. Now, anything that is data-driven, they do very well. Predicting weather, stock performance, everything is a database, right? Data, you have data, it will give you good predictions, right? But my argument is our mind is not really working on data. We are sense maker. We are trying to make sense of the world. We are trying to make sense of ourselves in some way, right? It's a sense maker. So it's meaning driven. Now, why it's meaning driven is that we have another mechanism. What is the mechanism? It's a social interaction. I talk to Denise, and Denise, you talk back. That's the way we build up a meaning. Either consensually or argumentatively, right? We argue with each other according to Piaget that make us grow. Does that make sense? Accommodate, assimilate. How does that happen? Because we say, wow, I think the earth is flat, but you think it's round. You are wrong, right? You're wrong. But then we gradually see, okay, I have a second thoughts. Probably you are right, right? That's how we build meaning, through communication. And in that sense, don't want to say too much, but very important principle in human thinking and human meaning making. We are intersubjective. Your mind is connect with my mind through language, but we know what we mean. We are talking with each other. Otherwise, we cannot make a conversation at all because we cannot understand each other, really, right? That's a very important principle. So in that sense, human civilization and everything is built through social interaction. Without that, we are nothing. Okay, so in that sense, Jeffrey Hinton says it's a biological intelligence. He forgot to mention it's also cultural intelligence, right? Cultural makes us smarter. Okay, so that's a very important part that you should not forget. Okay, you should not forget, because his argument eventually is like, okay, machine language, the large language model, then you are human beings are large language model. So we are large language model. What is the consequences? We eventually will outsmart you. Make sense? But I think the AI at least don't have cultural aspect of a human civilization that it does not have. Or try to imitate at least, right? Anyway, so co-constructed and intersubjective aspect. Max Weber, we don't have the slides here. Man is an animal suspended in webs of significance. He himself spun. I don't know why we don't have the pictures here, but anyway, don't worry about that part. Basically, that's human beings are about. I even have a figure. It's now in this slide. The figure is like a truly what? Truly, you have a spider there, Hana, dangling there with the web of meaning, with the web that they built. Anyway, the idea here is like we are living on meaning. Some people feel it's meaningless. What happened? They commit suicide. Does that make sense? They have to have hope. They have to have meaning. They have to feel connection with the world, with others. Otherwise, they feel meaninglessness. Anyway, okay, so that's something that I want to emphasize. So I already talked about 4 first principles. Why I say that? I basically say this. We human beings are not the same as AI. AI definitely can help us, but that's not the whole story. Okay, that's not the whole story. A curriculum model that's slow and beautiful. Let's look at a model that is slow and beautiful. The importance of embodied and symbolic tools we have for building world models. That's what we do. Okay, that's what we do in school, what we do in reading books. We are doing informally, formally about building world models. Okay, building world models. And so learning in that sense is adaptive, is that we try to control the world in a way that make us life more predictable, more happy. You can name any other things. But the importance of aesthetic sensitivity is very human. I don't think AI has that. Okay? We appreciate lots of things in the world is because of our aesthetic sensibility that allows us to do that. It's very universal. Okay? There was a sunset, all cultures, all peoples really appreciate, wow, it's a beautiful color, it's a beautiful things that we have, that we value it, we appreciate that. And that is not something that the AI will appreciate. So learning is perspectival in the sense that what is learning anyway? Learning is not adding information. Learning is gain a new perspective. Okay, so I earlier already talked about intersubjectivity is the same thing. It's like, wow, you say, Denise, you say something that I puzzled. What's going on, right? So that's the moment of change. That's the moment that make me a different person. That's called learning, right? That's called learning. So learning is like this, perspectival. And the last one is the importance of disciplined ways of thinking. That's a very important part, is that each field, each domains, each disciplines, and have their own way of thinking. The artist has their way of thinking. Even a painter thinks slightly different than a musician. So we have to learn all those things as if they are languages that we have to learn. Okay, we have to do the right language, learn the right language. So that's part I think is also very important. AI is picking up that part definitely. That's why they beat human beings in Go in the board game. in a ball game. But they probably will beat lots of human champions, lots of human experts. They will do that. But all the better. I mean, if they are doing great work, we allow them to do that work, right? We pick up the slack that AI left, and we do those things very well eventually, right? We work with a human being. For example, most of you, I predict that you will not lose your jobs as teachers at all. You will still working with humans. It's still something that AI cannot do better, okay? So that is something that I want to emphasize. And the ecology of learning as the basis for an innovation-based curriculum. This part I want to go a little bit quicker because I basically says, in order for us to survive as educators, we really need to have an innovation-based curriculum. What is an innovation-based curriculum? We start with a question that is right there in our real life, and we have to resolve, we have to find a solution, and we have to ask questions about those problems, right? Problems. And then we expand our thinking in many ways. That is with the help of tools and resources. We also have methods that is disciplined from the field, from more expert people. And we also have practice that synthesizing what we learn. And all those things become important. Eventually you put together, this is a cyclic process that eventually lead us to a curriculum that I identify as have 4 properties: openness, authentic, and polysemic. Some of you may ask, what is polysemic? Polysemic basically is what? You look at the same issue from different angle, different perspective, different viewpoints, and eventually come to some kind of a good sense of what it is. So it's kind of a multi-perspective kind of a perspective, impactful. So your work, students' work should be impactful so that they can feel a sense of agency. So I don't want to go too further, but you can look at the gifted education. This is what I mean by distinct view is what we try to encourage each individual, gifted individual to have. And we want them to be relentlessly quest for knowledge. We want them to be resilient, to have grit, and have the optimism and personal vision and personal enterprise. Eventually, every one of us will actually have that. Otherwise, we truly can be consumed by this big movement called AI movement. Truly, that's a very important thing for gifted education. Anyway, so we're moving to important part is a new agenda for gifted, talented education in the age of AI. And the number one things I want to mention, how am I doing with time? I'm okay? I don't know how to read it. It's a 4:54. Anyway, let's go through the final pages. We'll open up for some questions. Effective acceleration is Sam Altman proposed. He said we should let current AI, experiment, AI exploration go at its own speed. That's one kind of argument. Another argument is basically proposed by his former colleague, which is called Ilya Sutskever, who is a Russian. I don't know whether he is still Russian, but he left OpenAI. You know why he left OpenAI? Ideological difference between the two persons, okay? One person is saying effective acceleration, let's go. Okay, let AI go. The other one is say value alignment, okay? So, all right. So I personally feel that we need to locating human excellence in innovation this way. One is instrumentality, that is how hard technical things are. The other dimension is the consequential aspect. Is that good or bad for humans? So we really need to create. So for gifted education, I personally feel that we belong to high. Okay, instrumentally, we are building instrumental power for gifted students. But we don't forget there was a consequential aspect we should it's very complex matters. Takes a lot of ethical, social, political even philosophical considerations about whether something is good, like AI, okay? So that is basically what I think is important. So for the organization that we are working, so probably you should think about 2045 leadership program project. Basically, formulate a response to Kurzweil and his followers. Basically, is that what do you think? 2045, are we out of job? Oh, no, we are not out of job. We are still there, hanging there, very strong together. We have our missions not accomplished yet. So let's go further. Oh, I think this slide is not changed. Anyway, I'm going to move faster than that. So we didn't change the original ones. Anyway, so you can see this is a kind of outreach program I initially formulated with different percentage of students we can serve in terms of outreach program from a gifted education perspective. And they can do, many of our students can do things that we think that it's only initially reserved for for gifted, talented. We can broaden that to make it work for many people, But anyway, I do want to say the final things. Render unto Caesar's what is Caesar's. The education should not be hijacked by the AI rhetoric. Though we should take advantage of what AI offers, and in terms of tools and apps that can empower education. Second point, gift education should aim to nurture a few good men and women who can champion the human values of making a better life for individuals and a better world, for that matter. When these values are at odds with the power of technocracy, so that's my point of view. So I will end up with a poem, just like coming from this book. So hope that I initially feel that some of you can actually purchase a copy, but it's not here. It's not here. Okay, but this is something that I wrote in the end of the book. Okay, so let's go with the book, with the poem. I'm weaker by day, a reed with a whispering soul. I feel dizzy, a world spinning out of control. A curling threat from a distance to make everyone broke. To the crowd I cry out loud, for whom the bell tolls. I listen with all ears, only the sound and fury of the Babel. I keep looking at the stars, wondering how a destiny unfolds. This I know. Reckoning. The last judgment arrives, or so I was told. A silicon-based life. Is it just a hoax? Does it have a friend? Would it propose a toast? Is it a dummy without a single moment of time zone tolerance, being toward death? Locked in a Chinese room with the illusion of a soul. I'm not a bootloader for a silicon ghost. This is Elon Musk's response to Elon Musk. This I know. Redemption. From the foggy land of heaven, a wicked smile of Michel Foucault. Anyone from France? Michel Foucault. Basically, Foucault says technology is a power. Hear that, listening to that, education, including AI, is a power issue. A wicked smile from Michel Foucault, mistaking a destiny in sci-fi for the ultimate telos. An illusion of immortality, too human a spectacle. The bliss of a silicon dream, doom in the black hole. And this I know. Thank you.
Now you know why I had such a wonderful time on a boat in the archipelago in Sweden. Would you not just love to sit and pick this man's brains and thoughts and ideas? David, thank you so much. You have left us, I think, with so much to think about, the human perspective, and the good and the bad and the ugly. Thank you very, very, very much for your presentation. Can I ask you to come and just receive these gifts on the behalf of the World Council and of the local committee here in Braga.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. I have to pick up the book. I can put it in. Yeah.
He said, I have to pick up the book. I was hoping he wouldn't notice. But yes, I think I'm certainly looking for this, and my students are going to be looking for this too. I'm not sure that we have time to ask any questions from the floor, but you will be around.
Yeah, I will be around.
And
next 3 days, I will be here.
So find this man and sit and have a conversation. There is much, I believe there is much that we have to think about in this area for our field. Can I remind everybody that we have a members' meeting due to start here in this auditorium at 6 o'clock, followed by a delegates meeting. Without our members, the World Council is nothing. So please come along to our members' meeting here, 6 o'clock. And David, just thank you once again. Incredibly interesting.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you.